grab one of your blocks and just bring it underneath your bottom so that you're sitting up a little bit higher than you might normally. Okay, and then once you're in your comfortable position, it can be either cross legs, or some of you it might feel good to be sitting on your shins. Find a nice long spine, and wherever you happen to be, let's just take the palms to face upward. Palms facing upward. And then just close your eyes and do nothing more than just be here in stillness for a moment. Eyes closed, spine long. And see if you can draw the chin in towards the neck. It's almost going to feel a little bit like a double chin. And can you lift up taller through the crown of the head at the same time as doing that? And then draw the shoulders back down. Relax the tongue, relax around the mouth. And just check into how you're feeling. Begin with how the body feels. How does it feel in your physical body to be sitting here? Sitting here in this moment, in stillness, with nowhere else to be, nothing else to be thinking about. Notice the areas that feel really, really good in your body. Notice the areas that feel like they might need a little attention, a little love, a little care. And if you notice a thought popping into your mind from time to time, let it be okay. Just observe what the thought is, but don't attach any more thinking to the thought. Bring yourself back to just awareness of the physical body for this moment. And anywhere that you might be feeling a little tightness, a little tension, a little tenderness in the physical body, can you draw your awareness to that area and almost let your breath be focused into that space? For some of you, it might be the lower back or outer hips, maybe the inner thigh. Maybe sitting upright becomes a little uncomfortable after the first couple of minutes. And just notice that, no judgments, but just notice it and breathe into those areas. And as you breathe into those areas now, I want you to start to notice how it feels to breathe. So as you're breathing, do you breathe in through the nose more comfortably or through the mouth? And then notice how the exhale feels. Do you breathe through the nose or mouth for the breath out? And can you imagine the lungs, visualize the lungs as this big balloon. And as you're breathing in your next inhale, can you imagine the balloon, visualizing it in your mind, expanding in all directions, forwards, backwards, upward, outward. And then keep that visualization. As you breathe out, imagine the balloon just slowly getting to be smaller and smaller and smaller, coming back to where it started. And then the next inhale, can you imagine the balloon expanding, but this time expanding just a little bit more fully. And when you breathe out, that balloon starts to decrease in its size, just a little, coming back to center. And then one more again. Can you inhale again through the nose or the mouth? And can you expand, expand, expand? The balloon expands as fully as it can. And can you just pause at the top? Notice how it feels to be in that paused moment. And then when you're ready, just let the exhale naturally become a release. Through the nose or mouth again, the balloon gets smaller. We're going to do that just 2 more times. So as you inhale for the next inhale, you'll fill up the balloon. You'll expand in all directions, expanding through the lungs, the heart, the chest, the rib cage, the tissues in between. And at the top, you'll pause. Notice how it feels to pause. And then before it becomes too urgent to breathe out, just slowly let the exhale begin. And then one last time, inhaling, expanding the balloon as much as you can, lungs expanding in all directions. You're growing taller through the spine. And at the end of the inhale, you pause. And again, before it becomes urgent to release the breath, just slowly let the exhale begin. Balloon decreases in its size, lungs come back towards center. And now let the breath be a natural breath, noticing perhaps just with that simple focus on the breath, how it lengthens naturally from when we first started. And notice how your mind feels now. So we've paid attention to the physical body, we've paid attention to the breath, we've paid attention to the lungs, this machine inside of us, the breathing muscles, drawing energy in and working its way out. And now just notice how you feel mentally. How awake are you? How alert are you? How do you feel? Happy, tired, energized? Just notice it. And then ever so slowly begin to let the eyes gently open. And if you are sitting on something, just release it to the side. Place the block to the side and go ahead and sweep your legs out ahead of you. We're going to start lying down. If you have a strap, this is where it's handy. If you don't, we're going to work with fingers. So just have your strap within reach. And today's class is really focused around getting into the hips, a little mobility and release work, kind of recovery day, Sunday. So if you have a strap, go ahead and place it around the ball of your right foot. And left leg can just relax down to the ground, or you can have a bend in the knee. And if you don't have a strap, you're just going to interlace your fingers around the back of the shin or calf. And to begin with, I want you to just point the toes towards you. Try and let the upper back relax down to the ground. And just notice how that feels. Toes point towards you, a nice release through the back of the leg and ankles and Achilles. One more breath here. And then as you inhale, point the toes upward and keep the toes pointing upward now. And we're going to take 3 breaths like this. So you're feeling it through the top of the foot, the front of the shin. And this is just a little bit of mobility work around the ankle, around the plantar fascia in the foot, around the Achilles at the back of the ankle. And a little bit of nerve flossing here as well. So finding space for the nerves to glide effortlessly through the body. And then go ahead and point the toes towards you again. And then when it's time for your next inhale to begin, just start to point the toes upward. And then when it's time for your exhale, toes point towards you. So now we're flowing with the breath. So the inhale points the toe up. Inhale's nice and long, and the exhale points the toes towards you. Nice light grip of the strap, if you're using one. Upper back melting to the ground, so let the shoulders work their way away from the ears and just work with your own rhythm of breathing. Can you keep the mouth and the jaw nice and relaxed while you're here, particularly those of you who feel like this is a little bit of effort for you through the hamstrings or around the foot or ankle. We're going to take 2 more rounds of breath, 2 more rounds of moving here. And when the second breath is finished, just point the toes towards you. Strap is going to come into the right hand if you're using one. And if you're holding the leg, just hold on to the outside of the leg now. Take your left arm out to the left side of the room. Point the toes towards you on the left foot. And start to reach the right leg out to the right side of your mat. And notice as you do that how it feels through the inside of the right leg. Okay, and you want to be really reaching away through the ball of the foot, through the heel of the foot, but the toes are pointing back towards you. And this is getting into those inner thigh muscles, and these muscles are firing up an awful lot, particularly when we're out running or cycling, hiking, whatever it might be. And even those of us who are sitting down, if you have a habit of crossing your legs, these muscles are often switched on as well, whether we mean them to be or not. And if we're stressed, then they're definitely engaged. And we want to move away from them being constantly on. We want to be able to release this tension area here as well. So let's take another 2 breaths. Reach away through the right heel. One more breath. Notice if there's a bit more release than when you started. And then when that breath finishes, you're carrying the leg back up through center. Left hand go to the strap or to the inside of the shin. And now you're carrying the leg over towards the left side, but only a little bit. So only just a bit past center so that you can feel it through the outside of the hip. And your right arm, if you want to, you can take it out to the right side of the room. That can feel quite nice on the inside of the wrist. And I want you to just explore how it feels, where you feel it. Do you feel it through the outside of your calf? I know when I've been running, often that area gets really tight, so this gets into this area for me. And then it also works its way up to the IT band and the glutes on the outside of the hips, all of these being stabilizing muscles and powerful ligaments and tendons here. Relax the left foot a little, but keep the right leg engaged. Upper back, melt it back down to the ground. My shoulders always creep back up to my ears when I'm in this particular position. Relax the jaw, relax the mouth, relax around the eyes. Last big breath. And then just slowly guide the leg back through to center. Release the strap if you're using one and pause with the right leg next to the left leg on the mat. And just notice how that feels. A little bit of a tingling. It might feel like if the right leg has suddenly grown an inch or so. A little bit more space. And then when you're ready, go ahead and switch the legs over. So now left leg will draw in towards your body. Strap, if you're using it, goes around the left foot. And the leg extends upward. And to begin with, we're just pointing the toes towards us. Heel reaching up, all of the foot reaching up. Finding space through the back of the leg. And by pausing for a few rounds of breaths like this, we're just creating a little lengthening and awareness around the tissues that sometimes get very tight and congested, that stop the nerves and fascia and messages between the brain and the limbs from working in their correct way. So when the next breath that you're working with is finished, go ahead and point the toes up towards the sky. And just notice how it feels through the front of the foot, the front of the shin. And anyone who runs and has ever suffered from shin splints, this can feel really, really nice to just create a length in the front of the shin. A little bit of a breather. And then go ahead and point the toes when the breath that you're on finishes back towards you. And then when your next inhale is ready to begin, point the toes up to the sky. And now we work with the flow of the breath. So as we exhale, toes point towards us. And as we inhale, toes point upward. And then just keep working with your breath, inhaling, toes upward, exhaling, toes back towards us. Noticing those subtle shifts and changes in the tissues around the knee, around the hamstring, around the foot. Lots of good things happening here. So hydrating that thick layer of fascia, the plantar fascia on the sole of the foot. It's also a shock absorbency quality like the IT band. And we want it to be ready to spring into action. If it's too tight, too congested, it's going to not transmit shock up the body in the right way. We'll end up with soreness. And we don't stretch the feet out very much, so this is just a nice opportunity to bring our awareness to those two things that we stand on all day long. One more breath. And then when that breath is finished, just go ahead and swap the hands, swap your left hand to the strap only, and point the toes towards you on both of the feet. And on your exhale, you're going to extend the left leg out to left side of the room, right arm out to right side of the room. And just notice how that feels. Inside thigh. This side always feels nicer for me to work with, which probably means I need to spend more time on the other side. So just notice how it feels for your body. Legs are active, outer hip is engaged lightly, shoulders melt downwards, so soft, soft, soft there. Notice how it starts to soften and release through the inner thigh as you relax. Last breath. And these are shapes you can come to again and again anytime that you need them. Let's carry the leg slowly back up through center. Relax the right leg now. Swap hands again. Strap to the right hand, left arm out to the left side of the room, and just carry that leg over about 30 degrees, maybe even less. And just notice how that feels through the outer hip. And oftentimes when we pay attention and move slower like this, we start to understand which hip is carrying more effort, where the weakness might be or the imbalance. And then we can start to use that information to strengthen those areas to create more balance in our other moving practices or our gym work perhaps. Whether that be a home gym at the moment or a real gym. Take another 2 breaths here. Notice where along the leg you're feeling this. So on this leg for me, it's all about the outer hip, not the calf like it was on the first one. Nice, and then just slowly guide that leg back through to center. Relax it briefly down to the mat next to the right one. If you're using a strap, just wrap it up, pop it to the side. And then let's go ahead and hug the knees into the chest. Hold either the shins or the back of the legs and just rock and roll yourself up to a seat. And then once you're up to a seat, roll yourself over into tabletop position. Okay, tabletop position. Fingers nice and wide. And for this one, I want you to tuck the toes under. So we're going to continue that movement of releasing through the plantar fascia here in the foot. And hands nice and wide. As you inhale, soften the belly, reach the chest forward, shoulders draw back, tailbone lifts. So we're melting the tissues on the front of the spine. And as we exhale, we're pushing the ground away and rounding through the spine, and we're creating a little bit of hydration in the muscles and tissues in the lower back here. And all the way through the back of the spine. Inhale brings us back through center. Opening front body, and the exhale continues to work into back body here. And we're going to take 3 more rounds of movement like this, just awakening the spine. That central housing system for all of the nerves within, all of the little messengers to the brain and from the brain. And just notice generally how your lower back is feeling. Often when the hips are tight, the lower back is feeling a little icky and sticky, and then vice versa. Last one. And then when you finish that one, I want you to just slowly come onto the tops of the feet again and just sit yourself directly on the top of the foot and the shin here. And if you feel something through the top of your foot, that's fantastic. Stay there. If you don't, just lean back and place the block underneath your shin so that you feel a little something through the front of the foot. Again, an area that we don't stretch into that often. And you're still going to sit up nice and tall. So whether you've got the block or not, sit up nice and tall. Belly draws in. And as you inhale, I want you to lift up taller through the crown of the head. And as you exhale, take your left hand to the outside of your right knee and just reach your right hand around behind you to find the floor. Sit up really tall on the inhale. And as you exhale, take your gaze around as you draw your right rib, chest, and shoulder back. So you'll be feeling it through the front of the shin, top of the foot. We're multitasking just a little bit here. And then notice how it feels to create space in thoracic spine. When we've been sitting down a lot, curling forward, we neglect this part of the upper body. And when we're fatigued and tired from running or long cycle rides, this area gets really rounded as well. One more big breath here. And then just slowly unwind. Keep the spine long. On your exhale, twist over to the left. Right hand to outside of left knee or shin or thigh. And left hand is on the ground behind you. Sit up even taller on the inhale. Exhale, reaching left rib, chest, and shoulder round. And just notice how all of that feels. Take another big breath. And then just slowly unwind, face forwards, release the block from underneath the shins, place it to the side, hands to the ground, and just tuck the toes under. Slowly step yourself back into downward facing dog. Okay, walk the dog a little bit. It should feel pretty good through the legs now, a little bit of an awakening already. Hips high, hands push the ground away, thighs are reaching back. Okay, and just come onto the outside edge of right foot, inside of left foot. Bend the knees a lot. And then push into the hands, lift up through the hips. So you've got a little lengthening through outside of left waist and outer hip here. Both hands pushing the ground away equally. And then go ahead and straighten the legs out, come back through center, swap sides. So outside edge of left foot, inside of right foot, bend the knees. Push down through the hands, lift up through the hips, lengthen through the waist. Getting into QL a little bit, the thoracolumbar fascia in the lower back, the connection point between upper and lower body. Outer right hip for some of you. Nice. And then just slowly come back to face forward. And here, lift your right leg up, inhale. Bend the knee, open the hip to the side of the room, and just draw 3 circles for me with the knee clockwise direction. Notice how it feels to create a little hydration around the hip socket. And when the third of those circles is finished, square the hips back to the ground and step the right foot forward. Come onto the top of the left foot, knee down, and just reach the chest forward. Sink down into the front of that left hip. Notice how it feels to really puff the chest forward, and you'll probably be on fingertips just like me. That's okay. Take a nice big breath. And then hands down, slowly tuck left toes under, lift the knee, straighten out the right leg and draw the toes towards you. So the toes lift up off the ground. You can put your blocks under your hand if you need to. So we've got 2 straight legs, torso drawing towards the leg. Nice. And then bend the right knee, bring left knee down to the ground. Stay with toes tucked under. Puff the chest forward. So we're still getting into the sole of the foot. Front of psoas. Chest opens. And then hands flat. Straighten out both legs. Toes point towards us on the right leg. Torso lowering down towards the right leg. And remember, blocks are handy. We're going to do this again one more time so you have time to grab them if you need. Bend the right knee, sink down into the hips, knee to the floor, toes stay tucked under, chest puffs forward. Strong upper back. Nice. And then last one, straighten out the right leg. Toes lift from the ground, pointing towards us, releasing through the back line of the body. Big, big breath. And then look forward, bend the knee, lower left knee down. Left hand stays on the ground, lift up right foot. Reach around with right hand and take hold of the foot, if you can. And then draw the foot in towards the bottom. So there's a bend in the right elbow. Chest and ribs draw back. So we're still mobilizing upper back. Still getting into the front of right chest, which is an area that can get super duper tight when we're sitting or running a lot as well. And then psoas. This is the muscle that's working again and again and again. Quads and psoas. Our hip flexor muscles in the front of the hip when we're running. And oftentimes, if we don't stretch these out enough after activity or even when they're tight from sitting down a lot, these tissues get stuck. They get tight and dehydrated. Okay, this is where it gets fun. So release the foot down. Hands come back to the top of the mat. Tuck left toes under. And I'm just going to whiz around so you can see easier. And then just slowly lower left heel to the ground. Turn right toes towards right corner of the mat, and then lift left toes from the ground. Come into Skandasana. So right knee is bent, left leg is straight. So now we transfer around to the inner thigh muscle. Getting nice and deep into the groin. Hands can be on the ground or hands can be at heart center. Chest is lifted. Okay. Take a big breath. And then either use the hands or lift yourself up without them. Bend left knee, lift right toes from the ground, come onto the heels, Skandasana second side. Chest lifted as best you can. Getting into the groin, inner thigh area here. Hands on the floor if you need to, remember. Take another big breath. And then slowly work your way back to the top of your mat. Turn everything to face at the top of the mat, hands down, and step it back to downward facing dog. So your hips are nice and high to the sky, hands are pushing the ground away, thighs are reaching back. And then inhale, lift left leg up. Exhale, bend the knee, open the hip to the side of the room, squeeze heel to the bottom, and just anti-clockwise on this side. Draw 3 circles, knee reaching up and around. And when those 3 circles are complete, just square the hips back to the floor, step the foot forward between the hands, and lower right knee down. Come onto the top of the foot, sink into the hips, reach the fingers forward. Sorry, come onto fingertips, reach the chest forward. And just notice how it feels through the front of the hip here. Breathe into this tissue area. As relaxed as you can around the jaw and the neck. creating space on the front body. And then go ahead and place the hands down flat. Tuck the right toes, lift the knee. Straighten out both legs. So left toes point back towards us, right heel down towards the ground. Body lowering over the leg as best we can. Notice similarities, differences between the sides. And then welcome the bend back into left knee. Right knee comes back down to the ground. This time keep toes tucked under. Come onto fingertips. Heart forward. Deep into the hips. Take another big breath. And then straighten out the legs. Heel on the floor, toes lifted. Lengthening through the back body. Jaw, tongue, neck relaxed. And then last one. Bend the knee, sink forward, toes stay tucked under. Sink down to the hips. Different to how we practice this often, I know. Collarbone broad, toes still tucked under. And then gently hands down. Last one, straighten out the legs. Notice how it feels. Third time here. Last big breath. And then bend both knees. Right knee to the ground, right hand to the floor. Pick up right foot. Reach around with left hand, take hold of the foot, and bend left elbow if you need to. Draw the foot in towards the bottom. Sink right hip down. Notice if you try to avoid that. Sink down. And then lean back. Left chest, ribs, and shoulder, really actively trying to draw back. And it's a slow, slow class, but getting deep into the hydration that's needed in some of these tissues after a longer run or whatever your activity is. And for some of us, that's sitting down a lot more than we might normally. Take another big breath here. And then release the foot, hand to the top of the mat, tuck the toes, lift right knee, and then put right heel down. Turn left toes towards the top of the mat, and then lift right toes. So you're on the heel. We're in Skandasana again. Second time, check in with how that feels. Lift up through the chest, collarbone broad. Some of you might stay here. Some of you might take left arm in front of left knee now, hand to the ground. Introduce a twist here as well. Shoulder draws back, ribs draw back, chest draws back. And some of us might be like, that's a crazy idea, so I'll keep my hands on the ground. And that's okay as well. Big breath. And then lower the hands to the ground if you need to. And we're going to bend into right knee. Left toes reach away from the floor. Hands either at heart center, hands on the ground, or lean right elbow and shoulder in front of the knee, fingertips to the floor. And on your exhale twist, take your left arm back. Notice how that feels. So we're working a focus into the hips, getting a little bit of release here and upper back. And then go ahead and place the hands to the ground. Lift yourself up so that you come to the middle of the mat, toes face forward, and then just draw the heels in a little. Belly draws into the spine, hands to heart center. You're standing up into goddess or horse stance, some of us know it as. So we continue that inner thigh, strengthening of outer hip, which we all need. And then let's just slowly take the arms out wide, cactus arms. Okay, take a nice big breath here. Sink a little deeper into the hips. And just a strong upper back, just this simple motion, strengthening the muscles in between the shoulder blades here. Take another breath, fingers wide, muscles around the eyes and mouth relaxed. And then slowly go ahead and bring the hands down to the thighs. Push into the hands, lift the chest forward. Keep the hips nice and open. And on your exhale, left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. So we come back to mobility of the spine. And then slowly, right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. And then 3 more times in each direction. Left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. Gaze follows the backwards. And then come back through center, right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. And then third round, left shoulder forward, right back. And then right shoulder forward, left back. 1 more time each direction. Left shoulder forward, right back. And then last time. Come back into center, okay? And then slowly as you straighten the legs, turn the feet to face forward. And if you can, interlace the fingers behind the back. And if you can't, keep the hands on the hips. Spine long, inhale. As you exhale, beginning to fold forward into wide leg forward fold, and either you're squeezing the palms towards each other, fingers away, or your hands are now finding the ground. So 2 options there. Head heavy, neck relaxed. Weight into the front of the foot and the back of the foot. So we come back around to the hamstrings. A nice little inversion, so a calming, grounding, recovery focus for our brains, our nervous system, and our legs, our whole system. All right, and then just slowly, if your hands are not already on the ground, bring them to the ground. Walk your fingers towards your right foot. And then keep on walking around to face the opposite side of your mat, long side. Keep walking your toes around. And you'll eventually bring yourself down onto the mat. You'll have your left knee under, right knee on top. And if it doesn't look like that, just quickly sit yourself down. Bend your knees. Left one under, right one on top. Okay, take your time. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. And then belly's drawn in. We're sitting up nice and tall here. Okay, and we're going to take our left hand down to the ground, sweep right arm up, and then just slowly lean over, get into the side body a little bit, lower back, QL, releasing through the side stomach muscles, all of those muscles that connect upper and lower body, and do a lot of work for stabilizing the spine, stabilizing the hips. Take a big breath. And then slowly sit up, keep the right arm up, keep the left arm on your leg. And you're going to slowly turn the palm to face outward, so out to the right, and then lower the hand down, so fingertips skim the earth, and then reach the hand behind you a little bit. Okay, so it's kind of like this. Palm facing out, thumb facing back. And then just drop your left ear to your left shoulder. Notice the space that starts to give you just a little bit through the side of the neck. Take another breath here. And then gently lift the head. Bend right elbow. Reach fingertips up towards the back of your neck now. And then take your left arm up to the sky. Bend the left elbow. See if the hands meet behind the back. Sit up nice and tall here. And some of you might need your strap in between your hands. So go ahead and grab your strap if you do. And then some of you are going to stay upright. Some of you are going to start to draw the belly into the spine and lean forward so that you also add in an element of stretch through the outer right hip here. So this is really nice for stretching and strengthening upper back, shoulders, the rotator cuff muscles doing a good job here for us as well to stabilize the shoulders. And just notice how outer right hip feels, those of you leaning forward. Last breath with the arms. And then whether you're leaning forward or sitting up, just release the hands down to the ground and begin to fold forward more over that leg. Notice how it feels through outer right hip as you fold down forward for those of you that weren't before. Gaze is down, back of the neck long. And if this feels tight in any way, this is absolutely a shape to welcome into your daily routine, even if it feels challenging. Last breath. And then just slowly begin to sit yourself back up. Unwind the legs with the help of the hands if you need to. Change the legs over. Left leg on top. Sit up nice and tall on your inhale. Take right hand down to the ground, elbows soft. Left arm up to the sky and then lean over. Shoulder draws back, fingers reach. Length comes into the side waist and lower back. Shoulder draws back, fingers reach further. Slow down the breath. For some of you, I'm in the opposite direction to you. Depends how we have our cameras set up, which can be confusing, I know. All right, and then just slowly come to sit up. Keep your left arm up. And then go ahead and turn the palm to face out, thumb forward. And then skim the fingers over the floor and lean back with that arm. So just the arm. And thumb is reaching back, palms facing out. And then that's the starting position. And then from there, just go ahead and drop right ear towards right shoulder. Notice the space that works its way into shoulder area here. You'll need to have your mouth open a little, or at least the teeth apart. Take another breath here. And then you're going to sit yourself back up straight. Bend left elbow, fingers creep up towards the back of the neck. Right hand up to the sky. Bend the elbows, fingers reach towards each other. Lifting up through the elbow. Taking your time to notice if you need a strap or not. Some of us are going to stay upright. Some of us are going to begin to lean forward, belly drawn into spine as you do. And then notice how that gives you the effect of release through outer left hip here as well. And then when the next breath finishes, regardless of whether you're leaning forward or sitting up, just release the hands and lower the fingers to the ground as you fold your way forward. Notice how you feel. Notice how this outer hip feels compared to the one we just did. Last breath. And when that breath is finished, just begin to sit yourself up. Gently unwind the legs. And then make a little space behind you to come down onto your back. We're going to do a brief Shavasana. Some of you might like to stay seated for a Shavasana. Some of you might like to lie down. However that looks and feels for you today, just go ahead and find your place. Hands can rest on the belly or arms can be out alongside the body. And just slowly begin to reach the arms up overhead, giving the fingers a little wiggle as you do, toes a little wiggle in the opposite direction. Hug the knees gently into center once you've found your full body stretch. Hug the knees and just roll yourself a little back and forth, side to side. Eventually rolling yourself to your side body. From there, using your hands to lift you up to a comfortable seat. Taking a moment to notice how you feel. And let's just gently guide the hands together at heart center as we bow our head to our hands in gratitude for the movement, in gratitude for our practice, our health. Namaste.